Hey everyone, welcome to the Gaming Growth Analyst. My name is Anthony, and today I'm alone. So we're gonna talk about the articles that went live. I'm going to give maybe a bit more context, about them, how I came to start with them. By the end, I should probably talk about some podcast I like or an article, specifically one article I like, and I would like to highlight some use of AI. I hope you enjoyed the ride, and let's get straight into it. The first article I released is the Gaming Growth Analysis Live. It is a very straightforward article. I didn't want to get too much into data yet or into what I will what what I will talk about after, which is like in data context is king and this kind of thing, where I give tips and tricks to people about how to use data. I wanted a piece that was a presentation of what I wanted to achieve with this. I wanted people to understand where they're coming and why they're coming here. For me, it helped me structure a bit what I wanted to do, because I think when you start a journey such as this one, which is writing, you need to make sure that you're talking about a very specific subject. I'm very familiar with UA, I'm very familiar with administration, I'm very familiar with product management, but those are not subjects I want to touch directly without going through the data lens, if you will. And I think that was something that was very important to me, was that trying to get to the data lens to try to understand um, how I can talk about those subjects. And that's it for me. It was really a first article talking about what I'm gonna talk about. Obviously, subjects can change. Like suddenly, I can talk about other things than growth and game. I may talk about product management, but I doubt it. Again, like the goal for me is to go through everything through the data lens, and I wanted the first article to give people coming on my blog that sense of it. The second article that went live on May the 2nd, which is In Data, Context is King. In this article, I'm talking about why we should focus on context and what kind of model do I use for contextualizing a piece of information and a piece of data. It was an interesting one to start with because it was a bit of an impromptu one. Basically, I had a chat with some of my close family, and they complained about the fact that I was always asking too much context about the information they were giving me. Um, and I was thinking about it. I was like, why do I always ask so much? And you know what? That's true. I always ask a lot of context. I always ask to try to understand if they talk about someone, who is that someone? What is their job? What's the situation they're in? What they're trying to explain? What they're trying to express? What were their emotion at the time? And all of that for me is context to understand the data, which is the story in that case, that the person I'm talking to is trying to tell me. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm actually doing that at my job as well. And realizing that, I was like, how can I make it so it's written down so I can have a model I can refer to in the future, and I can help people try to understand how to use that model as well. Because I see sometimes people giving data like AppDAO without any contextualization for it and just making interpretation, and I'm like, it's lacking a bit of something. The context can be something like adding a country filter. That's also a context. You're looking at AppDAO for the US, and they were talking about something very specific. That's not something I talked in that very specific case. In that specific case, I was talking about a minute of gameplay. But my reflection about context came from that. And I think context is everything in our jobs, in data, it's everything in anything you're doing with people. Because people are not in your head whatever you want. And sometimes you're going to have reflections, and you're just going to give the output of the reflection without giving the logic of the reflection. And I'm a culprit of that as well. I'm definitely not an exception. But we need the people to understand the context of the reflection for them to understand the conclusion of said reflection. And that's what you see in plenty of things. So for me, that first article was very much an exercise of trying to structure my thinking around it. The next one that should be live when this podcast goes live is Your Data is Stopping Your Growth. Obviously a bit clickbaity. I'm trying different things on the titles. But it was a subject that was really close to my heart, which is data quality. I worked in a lot of companies where data quality was not as important as I would like it to be. And I think I've realized after a few years in gaming, it's been a while now, that data quality is a bit, everyone talks about it, but it's a bit like the things that nobody wants to do. It's a bit like that uncle nobody wants to talk to during Christmas time. And I think it's dangerous. I genuinely think that businesses that don't take care of data quality as much, where the ownership of data quality is not spread around the organization, is a business that's going to have trouble in the future to do what they want. So let's say you want to do a beautiful piece of analysis on how your user goes through your first time user experience. If your first time user experience has an issue, like one of your steps is badly recorded or recorded twice, all those metrics, suddenly you're going to have to clean it. And maybe sometimes you're not going to be even able to clean it because you don't know if the step has been done twice or if the person just restarted the first time user experience. I mean, there are plenty of things that can make it so it's impossible to clean. And I think not taking care of that early on is a bad idea. Obviously, this was also an article to promote my ebook, which I've wrote for the same reason. Again, I wanted to write something down that was structuring the thinking, that was maybe helping other people figuring out a practical way to handle data quality. The ebook is $16.99. You can have 20% off if you're among the first 100 buyers with the code Who Killed the Data. I'll leave the link in the description to buy Lemon Squeeze. It's a PDF, and most importantly, it's going to be updated. And I think that was the thing that was really important to me. If I wrote that ebook, if I was deciding to publish it, and I was deciding to promote it, I wanted people to receive value. Because what I'm saying on it is based on what I'm thinking right now, and maybe some things will change. I think the overall lessons will stay the same, but maybe I want to talk about other tools, give more example, like almost make a release 2.0 of that book and give updates to it, depending on feedbacks from people I respect from the industry or friends. So anything that will be updated will be for free with this book, which I'm sure everyone will be happy about. If you don't want the whole book and you just want the summary by the end, there is cheat sheet, as I call it, where you can buy it and you have just a very simple explanation of what you should be looking at. It can be also used as a template for other things. Those are the first 3 articles I've wrote, and I'm gonna do this podcast fairly regularly. Sometimes it's gonna last a short amount of time, like we do today. I don't think today is gonna be very long, and sometimes I may invite someone and talk about data and gaming and product management and data and product management for hours. So it's gonna be flexible. I'm still trying to figure out how we're gonna handle that. And please, if you have any comment, if you have any wish list, just let me know in the comment. I'm definitely happy to take on board any feedback. There is one article I really want to highlight, and I'm probably going to write a whole article about it. It's an article from Matej Lenkarik, Brutally Honest, from his blog Brutally Honest, and he's talking about what's the name again? It's not Airbridge, it's Airflux. There we go. Airbridge is MMP. Airflux for me is a very interesting way to use AI, because when you say AI, really you mean statistics and machine learning, and you have creative AI, generative AI, which generate, and it's not really generation, it's more like, stealing copyrighted stuff to make stuff, for producing content, for producing pictures, video, images. I mean, I'm using it, so I'm not bad-mouthing it, I'm just stating some facts. Airflux, for me, is a good way to use AI, is trying to get back to the basics, which is we can use advanced, very, very advanced statistics to basically help people to be more efficient and doing less complex data analysis, always with the human hand. And I think that's important, right? Making sure that we have a human that's able to tick on and off stuff, because sometimes your predictions are not gonna exactly follow what it is in reality, and you don't want to lose a ton of money as a business. I think Airflux is one of those companies that does that. I'll put a link in the comment, obviously, for that specific article. Another one that intrigued me was Context SDK. Context SDK is SDK you put on your app, and they use prediction and machine learning in order to define if you should show a special offer pop-up to your user, or if you show notification, like in basically use the device data in order to predict if that's the best time for the user to being shown something. So if the user is lying down on his bed or in the toilet or stuff like that. It is the kind of AI tool I'm really happy about, because when you look at the market, we've been talking for years and years about personalized customer experience, personalized user experience, whatever you want to call it. How can we make that this user, you specifically, when you go on my app, I have a user experience that is tailored just for you? And I think that part is something we have not figured out yet inside a lot of studios, because it requires so much resources, so much energy, and it costs a lot of money for research and development. And one thing I've noticed in data is sometimes you tend to do always the same things multiple times. It can be quite boring, and that thing seems to be one of those that multiple people will do it multiple times. So instead of that, why not making a tool like Airflux or Context SDK that they will take care of that, and all you have to do is to take them and make sure that whatever you pay is going to be paid by the lift those tools provide. And I think for a founder, for a CEO, for a CMO, for a chief product officer, for whatever you title, those tools are really cool because it's a very simple math to check if the tool is actually worth it. And I'm sure those tools are perfectly aware that it's a simple math, right? So for me, that's what is AI about, is how can we push things that are really complex to do but really repetitive, such as triggering like personalized customer experience, into a way more advanced way without having to break the bank or without having to hire a team of 3 data scientists, 3 developer, 1 UI designer, like all those things. Just stay simple. That's it for me this week. Soon we're gonna have more articles. I have all the next article to talk about. We'll talk about books. We'll talk about new things that I've noticed on the web, new trends. I think overall, I'm very open to anything. So if you want to very specifically look into something, just let me know and I'll check if I'm going to talk about it in the next podcast. In the meantime, everyone, I wish you a lovely rest of the day and enjoy dataing.